This conference will now be recorded.
Also, I want to remind you to mute your lines so that we can minimize any background noise and disruptions. Your lines will be muted until the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. And feel free to use the chat function throughout the webinar today. If you have questions now, go ahead and ask those questions, type those into the chat function. And we will certainly try to answer all those questions either throughout the webinar or at the end of the webinar during the Q&A session. And we will absolutely have a Q&A session following my presentation. The purpose and the objectives of tonight's webinar is to equip high school students and your parents with strategies and make sure that you understand how to navigate the college funding process. We also want to provide information about scholarship searches, how to apply for scholarships, and also share relevant impacts of COVID-19. First, I want to start by giving you a little bit of background into who we are. So my chapter, and let me introduce us, Psi Psi Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. We're located here in Stafford, Virginia. So we're really excited to be able to partner with North Stafford High School. I've been working with Mr. Braun at your high school to organize this event and to partner to share more information with the students on how to get into college, how to graduate debt-free. And my sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, we are an international Greek letter organization, nonprofit organization, and we were founded back in January 15th, 1908 on the campus of Howard University. We have over 300,000 members worldwide. And this program that we're bringing to you today is a part of a bigger national program. And the theme of that program is exemplifying excellence through sustainable service. We are a service organization, and so we're really excited to be able to offer this webinar as a part of our community service work. In particular, our program target number one, HBCU, which stands for Historically Black Colleges and Universities for Life, and our signature program, which is #CAP, which stands for the college admissions process. So we're here to talk about those two aspects as a part of our community service work. Our goal is certainly to promote HBCUs and also to assist you, high school students, through the college admissions process. Psi Psi Omega, which is the chapter I talked about a minute ago, we've been in your community since 2014. Our chapter was chartered to serve Stafford and Fauquier counties back in June of 2014. Our aim is to be an integral part of the community here, and to offer services in these 5 program areas listed below. And tonight we're going to focus on target 1, which is the HBCU for Life call to action. Our program initiatives will cover these 2 topics, which I've already described to you. And we really want to focus on helping juniors and seniors in high school who really need information and who really want to really enhance their college admissions applications and also learn more about financial aid and how to find scholarships. We are absolutely inviting each of you to join us, and as we create a #CAP program for our chapter. We're looking for North Stafford High School students to participate. If you're a junior or a senior in high school, we would encourage you to participate in our program as we're kicking it off in January of 2021. Our goal is to help college students with the college admissions process, host workshops and events, make sure that we connect you with college fairs and tours, help you through the college application process, give you information on SAT and ACT registration, and the preparatory courses that you may want to take, essay writing, talk about more about how to obtain letters of recommendation, assist with more with SAT and ACT prep specifically. We may host workshops and preparation workshops, and also financial aid and scholarships. So if you're interested, and I would certainly encourage you all to take advantage of this program, If you're interested, at the link below, there will be a website for you to go to, and you can download the application, and you submit that application to us at the email address listed here at the bottom of the screen, and you'll be able to join our program. And we'll be reaching out to you throughout 2021 with other events specifically geared for juniors and seniors that are in our CAP program, so that we can really work with you to make sure that you can achieve your college admissions plans and in your dreams to get into the colleges of your choice. Also, as I get started, I do want to mention that all the slides that I'm sharing today, I will make sure these slides are available to you after this webinar. So feel free to take notes throughout this session, but also know that this information will be made available to you. So tonight, I'm going to talk to you about understanding the college funding stages, how to use your time wisely, because the theme of this workshop is how to pay for college, strategies to help you pay for college, knowing the cost of attendance, paying for college itself, determining your financial need. How do you go about understanding what that looks like? And then applying for financial aid and searching and applying for scholarships. Now, this webinar is based on two books that I've written. The first book on the left is called College Planning Strategies I Wish Someone Had Told Me, and College Funding Strategies on the right that I wish someone had told me. So all of the key strategies that you'll hear me talk about, we will be sharing with you. Also, I am planning to, our chapter is donating copies of both of these books for North Stafford High School to share with their juniors and seniors who are participating in these webinars. So please be on the lookout. Mr. Braun will reach out to many of you and make sure that you have copies of the college funding book that accompany this How to Pay for College webinar tonight. Now, if you're wondering, why is Dr. Christy Murray, which is myself, why is she having this conversation with us about getting through the college process and how to pay for college? Because I'm right here with you. I'm going through the same process with my sons. I'm the mother of two students. I have one son who is a sophomore in college. He's at Old Dominion University, majoring in mass communication. And I also have a high school senior. He goes to a high school in Prince William County, and he also is planning to go to college and major in a STEM profession. And so I am very much interested in sharing the things that I'm learning and also learning from others who are going through the same process. Now, some of the things that I'm going to share with you out of the book are a part of this, the 10 college funding strategies listed here. So the book that I have, the college funding book, this black book, it contains these strategies, and some of which you'll hear me refer to as we get started. Now, first up, I want to introduce you to something that you may not have seen before, but and this is called the college funding stages. So many of us think about college planning as we hit high school. But what if I told you the earlier you start planning, the more opportunity you have to either find money or save money to pay for college? If you start out in an early stage from birth to preschool, which many of you are all of you are well beyond that stage, then it gives you the most opportunity to save money, your parents, your guardians to save money. But we're going to fast forward past the growth stage, which is K through 7, and go straight to the late stage, which most of you are in. It's not late in the sense of you've passed some deadlines, but it's late in the sense of you are in high school likely, and you are about to start applying to colleges, and it's going to be very important for you to understand how much college is going to cost you. And so that's the stage we're going to focus on tonight, the late stage. Now, as we start talking, if you can in the chat, I know we have about 5 of you here so far. Hopefully more students will be joining us. If you can in the chat, just let me know if you are a junior or a senior. I have two timelines that I want to share with you all, and I want to speak primarily to those students. If I have majority students who are seniors, I'm going to spend more time on that. And if you're a junior, I'll spend more time on that. Okay, we have a senior, a freshman, Other students, okay, we have a junior. Okay, thank you, Aisha, or Aisha, if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. Any others? We have a junior and a senior at North Stafford. Okay, so as you type that, I'm going to share these two checklists with you. As you think about how am I going to pay for college? Okay, Joyce is a junior as well. I want you to be thinking about this timeline. And I want you to think in terms of what can I do as a junior and or as a senior to prepare myself and to put myself in the best position I can to pay for college. As a junior, I've recommended some things that you should be focused on. If you're a junior, you should be narrowing down your colleges. Which college majors are you thinking about? Are you taking those majors and going out and researching colleges, understanding their requirements and cost? And it's important to know what your major is, because if you know what your major is, then you can go and you can research colleges, because one of the first things you'll want to do is make sure each college that you choose has the major you're interested in. If you want to major in electrical engineering like I did, and that particular school does not have engineering, then that you may want to consider other schools. So these things are becoming increasingly important. Thank you, Melissa. We have another junior. Great. So I want you to also think about developing a college funding plan. That may be new to you, but we'll talk more about that. Building a scholar profile. It's like a one-page resume. We'll talk about that more too. Start saving money for college. This is for you and your parents. Talk to your parents about starting to save some money for college. And don't be discouraged if you have not saved a lot of money up to this point, or maybe your parents haven't. It's okay. But as you hit your junior and senior year of high school, there are costs associated with preparing to get to college that you may want to start thinking about early, between taking the SAT test, prepping for those tests, paying the college admission fees. And this is all before you even get to college. So the earlier you can start saving money now, the less money you'll have to come up with as you're going through this process. Also, start thinking about estimating your expected family contribution, or EFC, and your funding needs. We'll talk more about that. Finding out your transcript request process at your high school. Hopefully, all of you know how to get your transcripts if you need them, official copies of your transcripts. If you don't, then we'll talk about what that looks like for you. Particularly seniors, the seniors probably already have that process nailed down, but juniors, I want you to start thinking about, hey, wait, I'm going to start to need these transcripts relatively soon. If you're involved in activities, and I know it's difficult due to COVID-19, my son plays sports. He plays football and basketball. And right now, there's not a lot of activity going on with those things. So I do understand the sensitivities around not being able to get out and volunteer or get active in extracurricular activities. But as much as you're able to, when COVID-19 is over, continue to resume those activities. Take the SAT and ACT if it's available to you. I will say that many colleges right now are going test optional, where they're allowing students to get admitted without those test scores, and so are some scholarship entities. Their applications may not require SAT and ACT tests because of COVID-19. But if and when you have an opportunity to take those tests, I would encourage you to do so. Also, as a junior, you should be thinking about who can write letters of recommendation for you. Don't wait till your senior year to start thinking about which teachers you're really fond of, or that you think will write strong, compelling letters for you. Start putting together that list now. We'll talk a little bit more about that too. And then start looking for scholarships. It's not too early if you're a junior to start looking for scholarships. It's not too early to look, and some you can even apply for as earlier than your senior year. Some scholarship entities allow you to apply for scholarships as sophomores, freshmen, juniors, etc. So we'll talk more about scholarships. And then next, I want to talk to the seniors. You have more of a immediate timeline now. Many of you should already be applying to colleges. And I know I saw a senior in this group chat already. And let me know, the senior who identified herself earlier. It's not on my chat screen right now. But let me know, just type in the chat if you already are applying to colleges. Just type me a yes if you are. If you are, that's great, which means you've already selected your college majors. You already know what your top 5 colleges are. you're already in the process of obtaining and getting official transcripts and letters of recommendations. Thank you, Nyla. I really appreciate that. And that's very encouraging to hear because it's December. And I always recommend that seniors, high school seniors, apply for colleges between September and December of their senior year. And so juniors, I want you to be thinking about this for next year. You don't want to wait till the spring of your senior year to start applying. You want to do what Nyla's doing and start applying early. And then also, seniors should be gearing up to look for scholarships, writing scholarship essays, updating that scholar profile, that one-page resume I talked about. And Nyla, if you may already be beyond this point, but if I was having this conversation earlier with seniors, I would certainly encourage you to retake or take the SAT earlier this fall if you hadn't already, but you're probably a little bit past that window. But I hope all the seniors are doing that bullet where it says complete the free application for federal student aid. I'll talk more about that. But if you have not done that, Nyla, get with your parents this week, this weekend, and have them complete it. I'll share more why a little bit later. But the short story is most colleges give out money on a first come, first served basis, and many times it's based off of this FAFSA. If you haven't completed this application, colleges won't know what your family income and your family financial capabilities are, and so they can't factor you into scholarship money or financial aid until they receive that application. Also, apply, seniors, for scholarships and track your progress. And so those are some of the key things I wanted to stress as we're talking about strategies to pay for college. Now, as we talk about strategies, it's kind of hard to have a strategy without understanding the cost of attendance. You should know the cost of attendance. The earlier the better, juniors. If you're a junior and you're starting to look at college requirements, you should be looking at those each school and saying, okay, how much is that tuition? How much is the room and board? This is what I'm talking about. The cost of attendance is simply that. How much does it cost to go to a college? There are two types of costs. There's direct cost and there's indirect. I'm going to break them down. Direct costs are those that you directly pay to the college. You write a check, a scholarship entity sends the money, your financial aid covers it. It's usually for tuition and fees and room and board, campus housing and food, for example. Indirect costs are costs that you don't pay directly to the university, but they're expenses that you incur while you're in college, such as purchasing books, school supplies, computers, personal expenses such as laundry, buying clothes, your cell phone bill, medical expenses, etc. And then transportation. How are you going to get back and forth to school? Or if you're going to school out of state, factoring in airfare and travel to and from home back to college and vice versa. So those are the two different type of costs. And both of those direct and indirect costs make up what we refer to as the cost of attendance. Now, as we talk about the cost of attendance, I also want you to understand the differences in how much different types of colleges tuition may vary. If you look at this table, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but the key takeaway is as you're thinking about what colleges do I want to go to, which colleges do I want to apply to, you should know the difference between public schools, which are generally in-state schools who are funded by the government, your state government, usually contributes quite a bit of funding for public in-state schools. And if you notice here, public in-state schools cost the cheapest. Their tuition is the lowest. And then if you look at the public out of state, let's say if you live in Virginia like we do, but you want to go to college in Tennessee, you're considered an out-of-state student. If you want to go to a public out-of-state school, it's likely to cost you more than if you went to college in Virginia. Also, there are private schools. Private schools are different from public schools in that private schools do not generally get funding from the state. They generally raise their funding or students directly pay tuition. And it doesn't matter for a private school whether you're in-state or out-of-state. Their tuition does not vary based on if you're an in-state or out-of-state student. As you can see from my trusty little chart here, private schools are generally pretty expensive. And I'm not discouraging you from attending a private school, but I certainly want you to be aware of how much they generally cost. So you can start looking for financial aid and scholarships to offset that cost if you don't have it already saved up. Each year, the cost of attendance usually increases just due to inflation and other expenses. Right now, the cost of attendance may be lower because many students, because of COVID-19, and many students, like my son, who goes to Old Dominion right now, university right now, he's actually taking online classes. I did not feel comfortable with him going to campus this semester, so he's home, but he's in an online Old Dominion program right now. So he paid tuition fees, but he did not have to pay room and board. So that actually increased his overall cost of attendance this year or this semester. And just recognize that some colleges are more expensive than others, but more importantly, go where you can afford. Don't set yourself or your parents back drastically by selecting colleges that are so expensive that they're going to have to give up their retirement, mortgage their homes just to put you through school when there's over 2,000 colleges in the United States, and there are many affordable, great schools that you can choose from. The other thing I want you to consider is time is money. If you go to if you're going to work on a 4-year degree, but you play around, you don't perform well, you maybe change your major a couple of times, and now you've got to take a bunch of extra classes, and it's going to push out your graduation date or the year you graduate. Just know that every year that you stay in college past 4 years is going to cost you more money. That's what this chart is saying. If you go to school in 4 years, public school is about 35% versus 53% for private. But if you stay an extra year, you see how that public school jumps up from 35 to 54? And then if you go and stay in that school, still working on a 4-year degree for 6 years, it jumps up to almost 60%. So as you're thinking about college and how well you want to perform, just know that the longer you stay, the more it's going to cost you. So then I asked the question, what is your plan to pay for college? And we're going to talk about helping you to put together a plan. Now, as you think about what your plan is to pay for college, I want you to introduce you to the different ways or sources of funding for college. So I'm going to talk about household sources right now. This is where your parents, your guardians, and even you may have to look for funding or find money to pay for college. It can be out of pocket. Your parents write a check, you write a check, that's out of pocket paying. It could be a college savings plan, like a 529 plan. Your parents may have saved up over the years since you've been young in maybe grade school, and now they have a savings plan that'll cover most of your costs. That's phenomenal if that's the case. There's permanent life insurance. That's an opportunity to, some insurance policies will allow you to get a cash value from them and pay for college. And then lastly, but I don't really recommend it, your parents may decide to dip into their retirement plan to pay for your college. I don't encourage it because retirement is for retirement and you're just getting started. But I certainly understand that there are situations where they may not have another choice. Also, there are outside sources that you can also look to help you pay for college. You can get funding from colleges, organizations, corporations, or individuals who are not related to you. Many times for-profit, not-for-profit organizations have various forms of support for you. Colleges and other organizations may have financial aid. You may be eligible for student loans, work study. You may get awarded scholarships or grants, fellowships, and sometimes even employers have education expense reimbursement programs that students can use. So these are the different type of outside sources that you can look to for further financial assistance. So there's household, within your home, what can we do to help pay for it? And then there's others who may be willing to help pay from the outside. So we'll move into, as you're putting together what's your plan to pay for college, I want to introduce you to applying for financial aid. All financial aid is money to help you pay for college. The federal government awards over $120 billion to over 13 million students every year to help pay for college. And the different types of financial aid, we've kind of touched on those already: student loans, work study scholarships, etc. on this list. Those are the different types of financial aid that the federal government may allow colleges to award to you. Now, with financial aid, I talked earlier about the free application for federal student aid, that application that hopefully Nyla has already completed. Let me know if you did, Nyla. But I want to walk you through how that works. So we're going to start from the left. On the left, I'll use Nyla as my example since she's a senior. Nyla and her parents are going to sit down. They're going to go to the FAFSA website and they're going to complete the application. As you're completing the application, you have to pick which colleges you want your financial information sent to. So that's why I said earlier, you have to think about what you want to major in and what colleges you choose, because at the end of the day, those colleges will need this information to determine and calculate how much money they can offer you. Once you complete that application and submit it, you will get back what they consider EFC. They call it an EFC, or an expected family contribution. It used to be called a student aid report, but I don't know if they're using that terminology anymore. But that expected family contribution says this is how much we believe Nyla can pay, or a student can pay out of pocket. That amount is also sent to every college that you specified. And what the college will do in that green box is they'll run their own individual college calculation, and they'll spit out what they call a financial aid award letter. And they'll say, here's how much, I'll just say Old Dominion University is going to offer Nyla for the 2021-2022 school year. And it may have student loans, it may have scholarships, it may have some or none of those, but it'll have her specific amount that they're willing to offer her. And it'll also tell her how much she still may owe or need to come up with. And then you will receive that award letter so that you can make some decisions based on what you know about each one of those colleges. So if you're wondering, well, how do I go about applying for the free application for federal student aid? So you will go to the website, and I do have that website listed for you. The U.S. government does require that every student complete this FAFSA form if they're interested in getting any federal money. You cannot get any federal financial aid if you have not completed this form. And then it's used by colleges, like I mentioned earlier, to determine your financial aid eligibility. It's free to use. You can apply and it doesn't cost you anything. And it generally opens every October 1st. So Nyla, if you haven't completed this, please do so as early as possible. And I mention that because colleges give out money on a first come, first served basis. And okay, great. It's good to know that you've already taken care of that. And those students who wait later to do it, the colleges may not have any more money by the time, or they may not have anything left but student loans by the time that student actually submits their FAFSA. Now, here's something important, that last bullet. So as you guys are entering your senior year, and Nyla and other seniors are headed off to college in the fall, every year while you're in college, you have to go back to the FAFSA website and update your information and renew your application. So this is not a one-time exercise. You'll need to do it every year while you are in school. And let me know if you have any questions about that. Here's the website I mentioned. Both the students and the parents, you must create what they call a Federal Student Aid ID, FSA ID, because both you'll have to sign the application at some point and your parents will too as you walk through it. When you and your parents sit down and complete it, they'll need their tax forms, possibly their W-2 statements from their jobs, bank statements, and other asset related information. The good thing about it is they will allow you to sign those documents or the application electronically. And again, you'll get a report with your calculated expected family contribution on it. And here's a little snapshot of how it looks when you first go to log in. You can either log in as a student or a parent, click next, and it'll continue to walk through those prompts. I found it to be pretty user-friendly, so it's not very difficult to use. So now that you know, once you've applied for, completed your FAFSA, you'll now need to understand how that works in terms of your FAFSA, in terms of your tax information. And I mentioned your parents' tax information would be needed. And this chart, it looks more overwhelming than it is. All it's really saying is if you're a senior and it's 2020 and you're planning to go to school in the fall of next year, which Nyla, in your case, you are 2021, 2022, then it's going to be based off of your parents' tax return from last year. That's all this is saying. Because they're still in 2020, so they don't have that tax information yet for this year. So it's got to be based off of last year's. So juniors, when you hit 2021 next year, it's going to be based off of your parents' information from 2020. And that's really all this is saying. So what is it? What goes into calculating the expected family contribution? And what I really want to emphasize with this, because it's important, is it's really the amount of money that the federal government thinks that your family can pay out of pocket for each academic year you're in college. They use it to consider you for financial aid. This is not your total out of pocket expenses. This is just their calculated amount. And there is used by colleges to determine how much your financial need will be and how much funding you are eligible for. Students who have a really low EFC generally don't have a lot of money that they believe their families can pay out of pocket, so they're likely to get more financial aid from a university. If you have a relatively high EFC, then they're like, okay, great. Christy, I'll use myself, her family can afford to pay more out of pocket, so she'll get probably less financial aid. So that's how they use it for that calculation. And there's 7 elements that feed into that calculation. And I want to just introduce you to them. I'm not going to get into a lot of details about them. They look at your parents' income. They look at how many people are in your household, the number of students in your household that's in college. They can be adults or college or undergraduate students. They look at your income if you're a student. They also look at your parents' assets. Do they own a home? Do they own other stocks and bonds and boats and different assets? They'll look at those. They look at the age of your oldest parent. And then they look to see if the student themselves has assets. And surprisingly, some students actually have stocks, bonds, businesses, all kind of assets. So they factor all that into the equation. Now, one of the things I would encourage you to do, particularly my juniors in the group, feel free to visit one of these websites. They actually have a tool where you can go in and guesstimate, put in some hypothetical numbers, maybe sit down with your parents and have them put down some, use one of these calculators and input what they believe their income is. And it'll give you a rough idea of what your expected family contribution is so that you're able to better plan for that. Now, what happens? Why do you need that EFC? What is that really going to tell you? Here's the bottom line. That EFC is going to say, Nyla, we believe that we're going to give you more money or less money based on your EFC. Your EFC is going to determine if we believe you can pay more out of pocket or less out of pocket. And there's 3 formulas here that I want to introduce you to. The first one is for need. This is how much it costs to go to the school minus how much that EFC was. How much do you need? If the school costs $50,000 and they say your EFC is 10, then you still need $40,000, for example. Formula 2 is your unmet need. So just because you have a need of $40,000, it doesn't mean you have to pay it all. Because what if you have financial aid awarded to you, as Formula 2 includes? You'll see the awarded aid. So if the college or university gives you money, then that's less money that you'll have to come up with, which is great. And then Formula 3 is the total out-of-pocket cost. This is what you're really going to have to reach in your pocket and pay for once everybody else is giving you all the money they're likely going to give you. And I do have an example. So let's say you pick a school, Nyla picks a school that costs $56,000 a year to go to in Formula 1. And then she fills out her FAFSA and they send her back an EFC of $2,000. That means she's got to figure out where $54,000 is going to pay for to cover all of her costs. We'll go to Formula 2. So it cost $56,000. They gave her $2,000. And so, Old Dominion University gave her an award letter, and they said that they would cover $51,510 through financial aid. Great. That's even more money she doesn't have to come up with. So what's left? $2,490. So now Nyla's like, okay, this is what I would have to put with my EFC to cover how much me and my family would have to pay out of pocket. That's when you go to Formula 3, which includes your EFC, which is at $2,000 from the financial aid application, plus how much she didn't get in awarded financial aid from ODU, which was at $2,490. So out of pocket, Nyla and her family would hypothetically have to come up with $4,490. That's the beauty and the value of understanding that EFC, and also understanding how much each college costs. Because if you have a high or low EFC, then you can change how much you have to pay based on which colleges you look at and how much it costs to go to those colleges. So that's why I say, when you're looking at colleges, make sure you have colleges at different price points on your list to apply to. Don't pick all these expensive schools and have no affordable colleges on your list, because you're going to stress yourself out and your parents out, and it's going to make it more difficult for you to achieve your college goals. Now that you know your need, I'm going to go back here in this yellow box here. Let's assume hypothetically that Nyla has to come up with $4,490. And she's like, what? My parents don't have $4,400 to put towards my college expenses and tuition. What do? And Melissa, I understand you when it comes to divorced parents. My son is in that same boat. He lives with me, and primarily I completed his FAFSA form based on my income. It does ask you when you complete your FAFSA if you want to include both parents' income. And so talk to your parents and determine, primarily with the custodial parent that you live with, how they may want to approach it, because there may be some tax and other implications to that. But you can have one parent and one parent only apply with you when you complete your FAFSA. So if you're concerned that you absolutely have to have both parents, you do not. The parent that you live with more than half the year, they can sit down and they cover most of your expenses, and they'll be able to apply with you for the FAFSA form. I hope that helps. If you do have money that you need to come up with, scholarships is the way that I recommend. Now, I'm very passionate about scholarships. What I didn't share with you guys is way back in the 1990s when I was in high school, my sisters, I have a set of older twin sisters who were both in college. They were a year and a half older than me. So when I graduated as a senior, or I was about to graduate, I wanted to go to Hampton University, which was a private school. Remember we talked about public and private? Here it is, 2 sisters in school, and I go and pick a private school. It cost a lot. And my mother says, well, you can't go to Hampton University and major in engineering because it's expensive. Try an in-state public school. I didn't want to go to those. So she finally said, look, if you want to go, I'm happy to support you. I can't afford it all. So you're going to have to put in some work and get scholarships. And that's exactly what I did. There's a great story that came with that. The long story short is I found enough scholarship money to get to Hampton University and graduate with an electrical engineering degree. But I had help, and I had a process, and I had a plan. And that's what I want to stress to you all tonight. Don't just go over the next year or so, or even Nyla as a senior, spend the rest of your senior year looking for money. If you finish applying to colleges and you're a senior, you spend the rest of your senior year and you're all the way through college looking for scholarships. So scholarships are gift aid, money you do not have to pay back. We talked a little bit already. I'm gonna go back. We talked a little bit about student loans, all these different types of financial aid. Student loan is money you have to pay back. Work study, you have to work while you're at college, and that's perfectly fine too. And they'll offset some of your income towards some of the tuition and fees that you still owe. So that's good. But my goal and my vision is that by applying for scholarships and putting forth effort here, you don't have to pay it back, and you can graduate debt-free, hopefully. If you have a 3.0 or better, you have great chances of getting merit scholarships. I always tell people, if you have a 3.0 or better, there's no reason why you should have to pay to go to college. But there's a caveat. If you're willing to work, if you're willing to roll up your sleeves and do the due diligence to find the scholarships. So you should have a plan to search for scholarships. Scholarships are free money. There are a lot of different types of scholarships. There's scholarships that have a high dollar amount, tens, 20, 30, $40,000, full tuition, full scholarships. And then there are smaller, $500, $1,000 scholarships. Apply for both types. Don't get so arrogant to think I'm only going to apply for large. No, small scholarships add up. If you got $1,000 scholarships, that's still $10,000. And you never know who actually has money for you and what you qualify for. Apply for local, state, and national scholarships. And don't limit where you apply. There's all kind of organizations, fraternities, sororities, military services. There's ROTC programs that have ROTC scholarships that you're eligible for. They'll pay your entire way through college and give you a job when you graduate in some of those programs. There's religious organizations, churches, entities, many of them have scholarships, and even employers. So there's a lot of ways to get scholarships. And there are a lot of different types of scholarships. There are need-based, merit-based. Need-based are based on your EFC and how much financial funding you need. Merit-based are academic scholarships. Interest-based, they give them out for a lot of different reasons. If you're left-handed, right-handed, if you play the guitar, the piano, if you're in performing arts and drama, whatever your interests are or your talents are, if you like to cook. There's so many different scholarships out there. You really don't have to limit yourself. And they're not all just based on your academics. So don't think just because you don't have the greatest GPA that you shouldn't look for scholarships. On the contrary, I would encourage everyone to look for scholarships. And then there are military and athletic scholarships as well. Now, you may have the question, well, where do I go to look for scholarships? Anywhere. First of all, Google can be your best friend, and I would encourage you to Google different things. If you're trying to major in business, you can go and Google scholarships for business students. So there's a lot of different ways to look for scholarships. But if you want more of a targeted search, then I would encourage you to subscribe to some of these web portals like CAPEX, the College Board, FastWeb, Niche, college scholarships, scholarship.com, etc. Once you create a profile and set up your particular, the particulars of what you're trying to achieve, they will allow you to filter out and they will send you and show you a list of scholarships that you in particular may be eligible for. So that's a way to really get to the heart of scholarships that you can apply for. And also, if you visit my website at the bottom, www.investinothers.com/scholarship-list, you'll see scholarships that I've posted there that I've heard about as well. But my whole point with this is there are a lot of different search engines out here that has already done a lot of the heavy lifting and pull scholarship information together. So you'll be able to actually set up these accounts. And even if you just decide, I'm going to apply for 5 scholarships a week, Nyla, as a senior, having a plan, having a goal will help you to meet that. Now, I also want to encourage all of you, juniors and seniors, my chapter, my AKA chapter, who we serve in Stafford and Fauquier County, we even have a scholarship. Our deadline is probably going to come up in late March, early April of 2021, but we have scholarships for high school seniors. We have a leadership scholarship. We have a trade or vocational school scholarship. And then we have scholarships for students who are attending HBCUs, whether they're currently in high school, a high school senior, or if they're continuing, if they're already in college and they're continuing on to their sophomore, junior, senior year. So if you visit our website here below, the applications will soon be available for this upcoming year. We would encourage you, let me stress, highly encourage you to apply for this scholarship because local scholarships are phenomenal. Many students don't know about them and many students don't apply. So if they don't apply and you do, you increase your chances of getting selected if you meet the criteria. Now, As you're searching for scholarships, I also want to introduce you to you. Don't just search for scholarships and then lose, oh my God, I forgot where I saw that at. Track them on a spreadsheet. I would encourage you to list each scholarship you find and put the link to that scholarship. And here is a template that I'm happy to share with you all. If you go to my website, I have templates that you can download. But track your progress with your scholarships and your funding activities so that you can go back and reference where you found them, keep track of the criteria that you may be eligible for, the award amount, etc. And if they require essays or letters of recommendation, etc., you'll know all of that here in one place. Now I'm going to talk very briefly about as you apply. So we've already talked about searching for scholarships and then writing them down and keeping track of the requirements for those scholarships so you can get to this point where you're actually going to apply. Once you apply for scholarships, it's really kind of like applying to colleges in a sense, in that there are parts of the application that you have to be thinking about. There may be financial documents you have to provide. They may or may not ask you for SAT and ACT scores. They may ask you for transcripts or your GPA. To verify that you were accepted into college, they may want your acceptance letter, or if you're already in college, your verification that you're continuing on. They may require an essay or letters of recommendation. They may want you to talk about your activities of interest or your scholar profile. But these are the things that you should certainly be thinking about as you think about what could possibly be in the application. So I'm going to talk a little bit, very briefly, about some of those parts. The SAT and ACT test scores. We've talked a little bit about how with COVID-19, many colleges and scholarship entities are making those tests optional. If you have planning or are planning to take them, I did provide you here in this table some information around the SAT and ACT test, how much they cost, how long the tests are, the score range for each test, and the average time it takes to test. But I just want to make sure that you're exposed and introduced to the SAT. And know that you'll need to have those scores available to provide as a part of your scholarship application if that scholarship entity requests those. Also, you may be asked to provide transcripts or to verify that you're either in college or headed to college. So one of the key things I want to stress with this is make sure you understand how to get transcripts from your high school. Like Nyla, who mentioned that she was a senior. You don't want to wait till the last minute to understand what that process is. Because let's say Nyla finds this phenomenal scholarship, but the deadline is January 15th. Or let's say even closer, December 15th. And today's December 2nd. And she doesn't even know the process to get her the transcript. So now she's got to go back, try to sort all that out, and she may likely miss the deadline just because she's not prepared to get those transcripts sent out quick enough. So make sure you understand what that process is at your high school. And I'm sure Mr. Braun and your school counselors can help you to understand what that process is. So find that out early. Follow the directions. So if you get a scholarship instructions and they tell you to have your school mail it directly to them, do that. If they say have the official transcript sealed in an envelope and you provide it as a part of your full package and mail it, then do that. Please don't do anything contrary to the instructions you were giving. That's the quickest way to get yourself disqualified. I'm a stickler about following directions. And a lot of times with high school students, a lot of colleges do this and scholarship entities too. It's an exercise to see how well you can pay attention to detail and follow directions. Make sure that you make copies of what you share. Don't give anybody your only copy of your package. And make sure that you, any fees that may be associated with your transcripts, getting those transcripts, make sure you understand what those fees are and you pay those fees. And then you follow up with your high school to make sure that your transcripts were sent out on time. And then follow up with the entity that you're applying for scholarships and make sure they've received them. The onus really is on you as a student and you and your parents to make sure that all your information and your documents are submitted on time. Now, I want to talk about types of essays and letters of recommendation. This is another key part of the scholarship application. These two are probably going to be very important right now with COVID-19, because if they're not accepting, or they're not, they're giving you latitude on not having SAT and ACT tests, then guess what? It means they're going to have to look very, very closely at your essays and letters of recommendation to make their decision. So as you're doing that, you want to make sure that you get essays, you write essays, and you get letters of recommendation for two instances. One, and these for college admissions. Your essays for college admissions look totally different than writing an essay for a scholarship. Same with a letter of recommendation. But we're going to talk more specifically today about scholarship essays and scholarship letters of recommendation. You should be asking the question or answering the questions: why should you be awarded a scholarship from my company or from my organization? And so that should be the theme of your essay and the theme from your recommenders as they submit letters for you. Now, I want to share with you some tips on writing essays. And I have a whole YouTube video that gets into this in a lot more detail than I have time to do tonight, but I do want to pass along some quick tips for you. First, some colleges and scholarship entities require essays, which we've talked about. And we've talked about following the directions. If they tell you to type it, type it. If they tell you to handwrite it, please handwrite it. If they say, Christy, don't go over 500 word count, don't go over the word count. And make sure that you draft your essays early, get someone to proofread them, and then refine your final essay before you submit them. And make sure you write to the topics that you've been given. Sometimes scholarship entities will give you essay prompts, and they'll tell you, we want you to write about leadership or community service. Don't write about something random. Please focus on the topics that they've asked you to, because that's another way to get yourself disqualified, by not paying attention and following directions. And just know that you can reuse scholarship and essay writing and even letters of recommendation. You can reuse that content for multiple scholarship applications. Now, as you think about your letters of recommendations, juniors, you should be making a list of your teachers from 9th grade all the way up through your senior year next year. Who do I think would write a good letter for me? And keep that list and keep adding to that list. Seniors, you should be using that list now. Request the letters early. Don't wait to the last minute and you have a deadline of December 15th and you're just now asking for letters of recommendation, and you had plenty of time and you could have asked earlier. Give people enough time to help you. Make sure that you set a deadline that's earlier than your overall deadline to get your applications in. And if you're given an opportunity, that one-page resume I talked about, you can even provide that to your recommender so that they can learn more about your background and the activities you participated in and write an even more robust letter for you. And then here's something I offer to students. It's a little bit more work on your end, but it'll get you better outcomes on the back end. Offer to pre-draft the letter yourself and have them tailor it for you. And this is how that goes. Let's say Nyla comes to me and she wants, I'll use Joyce. I'll pick on somebody else. Joyce comes to me and she says, Miss Christie, I know you're my English teacher. I'm a senior this year, and I would love it if you would write a letter of recommendation for the scholarship I'm applying for. Here it is. I've pre-drafted a letter for you to consider, and I've attached my scholar profile, which is my one-page resume, to learn more about me. And if you're interested in writing this letter, I'm happy to email you this pre-drafted letter of recommendation for you to tailor and sign for me. How likely would the recommender be to write you a letter? Very likely, because you've saved them a lot of time. So I would encourage you to use that strategy. My son just did that with an English teacher and his football coach, and his letters were turned back around ASAP. So it was more work on his part, but this is your process. It should be more work on your part. So roll up your sleeves and be prepared to get to work. Also know that you can reuse letters of recommendation. I had my son, I asked his coaches and his teachers to just make them out generally. So it says, instead of saying to the University of X, it says, Dear Scholarship Organization. So every time he has a scholarship application now, and he needs a letter of recommendation, he can use that same letter over and over again. He can just keep adding it to his package. And lastly, make sure you say thank you to those who you are able to get to write letters for you. Now, I also talked about this scholar profile and a lot. It's the one-page resume. And I probably should have introduced it earlier, but I'm going to introduce it now. And it's really just, and I'm going to go to the next slide real quick. Well, I don't think I put it in here, but it's really just a one-page resume, and it has the following information. It may have a profile picture, your name, contact information, what you want to major in college, which colleges you're thinking about, how you're tracking and performing educationally in high school now, what's your GPA, SAT test scores if you have them, any honors and awards you have. This is the time to really brag on yourself and sell yourself. Any employment you've worked, extracurricular activities, community service, etc. Here's the beauty of it. You can use it for your letters of recommendation. You can attach it to a college application or a scholarship application, and it'll help you to differentiate yourself from the competition. But here's the caveat: only attach it to a college application or a scholarship application if they say they're willing to accept additional documents. If you have instructions that say do not submit any additional documents other than what we've required, then don't submit your scholar profile. But if they allow additional documents, absolutely send it. My son's doing the same thing. So draft your scholar profile early in your junior year. Start now, maybe do it over the Christmas break if you're a junior, save it. And then at the end of your junior year in the summertime, modify it, update it, and you have it ready to go for your senior year. So you can get ahead of that and start early. Now, I also want to share, and I'm getting to the end of my talk, but I also want to share some other successful scholarship strategies with you. Start early. The earlier you start looking for scholarships and applying for scholarships, the more likely you will be to have scholarship entities come back and say, congratulations, you've been awarded X amount of dollars. The more you apply, the more probability you have of getting scholarships. Apply for scholarships that are of big and small dollar amounts. Figure out ways to differentiate yourself, whether it's through your essay writing or through your scholar profile itself. Both give you an opportunity to show your own uniqueness and your individuality. Find a scholar mentor. I spoke with a young lady about 2 years ago. She had received over $1 million. I'm not kidding, $1 million in scholarships. And I had coffee with her and I asked her, I said, hey, Maya, how did you do that? What was the secret to your success in getting so much money? And this is one of the tips she gave. She said she had a scholarship mentor. You know how you have the big Coca-Cola, Bill and Melinda Gates scholarship, all these big scholarship dollar amounts. She said she went to the website of those organizations, looked at the students who had been previous scholarship recipients, reached out to a couple of them, connected with them, and used them as a mentor and asked them, what did you put in your essay that was so compelling? Well, how did you know to write this? And what do you think was caught their eye about it? And surely enough, she also received that same scholarship because she followed those tips. So don't feel like you have to do it by yourself. Leverage young people, leverage other scholarship recipients who may be and probably willing to help you. Pay attention to your deadlines. Don't run from essays. You would be surprised at how many high school students who don't apply for scholarships because that entity required them to write an essay. They didn't want to take the time to write the essay. Don't fall into that trap, because while 80% of the students aren't writing the essay, you could be in the 20% that is and get awarded the money. So roll up your sleeves and put in a little bit of work, and you'd be surprised at how that could pay off for you. Also, make sure you provide all the documentation that's requested with your applications. Don't leave anything out, and don't send anything after the deadlines. I'm a stickler for following the rules and instructions. If I receive information after a deadline, I'm going to discard your entire application. So don't set yourself up that way. Some scholarships require you to interview. If that's the case, Google how to perform an interview. Go to YouTube and watch a video on it. Get some tips. Practice your interview skills. Be resourceful about it, but certainly go in and nail the interview. I've seen that quite a bit here lately, particularly as entities are trying to really figure out how to differentiate students. Keep applying and track your progress as you're going along. And then lastly, I want to mention to you to save your username and passwords. Throughout this whole process, everybody's doing everything electronically through websites and portals, and you generally have to create accounts, create username and passwords for almost everything you're doing. So you might want to create a central place to save all of your username and passwords so that you and your parents can access those so that they can help you. Now, with that being said, that brings me to the end of my discussion, and we're getting close to Q&A, so start thinking about any great questions you may have. I also want to remind you that I am donating both of the books I have here to North Stafford High School, particularly for this session, the Black Book, the college funding book. For those who are on this webinar tonight, you're likely to receive a hard copy of my book and the workbook that accompanies my book. So thank you for your participation. And I hope you found this to be useful. I am including some useful links that I will send you also that you can reference for our CAP program. And again, I want to encourage you to join our CAP program, and the link is here for that application. So join our program so that we can continue to work with you and give you more hands-on, one-on-one dedicated focus to help you through this process. And I'll tell you, the beauty about participating in our chapter is you have a published author, myself, who's actively working in this chapter in your local community and absolutely willing to share anything that I have knowledge of with you. So you talk to your parents, fill out the application if you're interested, and let us help you to be successful. Your success is our success. We certainly want to help as many students in our surrounding counties as we can. Also, I know I've talked a lot, and there's maybe some other topics you're interested in. Well, we did a whole video series, webinar series this past summer, and these are the topics below. We talked about general college admissions, SAT and ACT, college funding and scholarships, writing essays. I really encourage you as you're writing essays to watch that video, if no other video, because I think essays are going to make the biggest difference between you getting a scholarship or not. So check out that video and pay attention to some of those key tips in it. And then these are there's a few other videos that I think you can benefit from. But these are the, if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, Invest in Others, you can get access to any videos I have currently or any in the future that I may publish. So with that being said, I would also love for you to connect with me on Facebook, Instagram. Many of you aren't on Facebook, so I'll say Twitter and Instagram in your cases. Certainly connect with us, and we also push out tips and useful information that you might find helpful. And then we have a survey that we would love for you to complete. It takes 5 minutes. If you could, at the end of our webinar tonight, there's like 10 quick questions. You'll get through it in 3 minutes probably or less. But we would certainly welcome your feedback so that we can offer more webinars to North Stafford High School students. And hopefully you can encourage some of your friends to attend in the future. And we can have workshops on different webinars on different topics. But we certainly value your input. Now, with that being said, we've included the survey link in the chat here for you. And so now I am going to open it up for any questions that you may have. Now, I'm going to take everyone off mute because we have such a small group tonight. Let's see, I'm going to unmute everyone if I can. Or you may have to take yourself off mute. I'm not sure if I'm able to unmute everyone. But if you have a question and you want to verbally ask it, feel free. If you're shy about talking and you would prefer to type it, feel free to put it in the chat. We're happy to answer any questions that we haven't already answered. Okay, Nyla has a question. Is it difficult to find scholarships while in college or renew scholarships? No, it is not. Some scholarships, like even if you apply for some scholarships in high school, they may be automatically renewable, which is fantastic. Not all of them are, but if they're automatically renewable, then you don't have to reapply. But while you're in college, and I did mention as if you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior in college, keep applying for scholarships. You would go through the same processes we talked about here in terms of going out to those sites, looking for scholarships, putting your package together and applying. And if you find that you have partial scholarships going into college, don't let that be it. You can continue to find more money and find more scholarships. You don't have to pay tuition every year you're in college. You can continue to find scholarships to offset the cost. Now, even better, in some cases, if you have enough scholarships and enough financial aid, you can even get a refund back from a college. If you have, let's say a school costs $30,000 a year and your financial aid and your scholarships cover all of your tuition, room and board, and you still have, and you got $40,000 worth of money applied to your account through scholarships, grants, and other financial aid means, and you have $10,000 left, $5,000 left, $3,000 left, some universities will issue you a refund check. Now, how good does that sound? So I would definitely encourage you to continue to look for scholarships and gift aid the entire time you're in college. Yes, there's scholarships for graduate school too. I have 2 master's degrees and a doctorate, and I have had applied for scholarships all the way through all those programs. Even in this book here, this book wasn't just written for students who were pursuing undergraduate 4-year degrees. It was for students who were in graduate school or vocational school. So you can get scholarships if you're going to cosmetology school, if you want to become a barber, or you want to become an electrician, or even graduate school, or go to law school, or become a doctor, postgraduate school. So there are absolutely scholarships for all levels of students who are pursuing academic excellence. Any other questions? Okay, I see another question. What's the difference between a scholarship and a grant? Great question. A grant generally is funding that is given to you by a government entity or a college or university, such as a Pell Grant for the state of Virginia. Virginia has what they call a Pell Grant, and the federal government issues Pell Grants. So that's really funding that is given to you. It's gift aid as well. You do not have to pay it back. And in many cases, you don't have to directly apply for it. It's given to you based on your financial need. So that's really the main differentiator. Like if you fill out your FAFSA, which we've talked about, and part of your EFC calculation, when you get an award letter back from that college or university, they may actually specify that you get X amount of dollars in grant funding off the bat to help fund or take care of some of those college costs. So grants and scholarships are 2 of the best ways to pay for school because you don't have to pay a dime back. And so those can be very rewarding for you. Any other questions? Okay. Well, before we go, I just want to say thank you all again for joining us tonight. I want to give Mr. Braun a shout out for working with me to set this up and to partner. Hopefully we can get more of your juniors and seniors to participate in future events on behalf of our chapter and our partnership. I am working with him to host another event in the spring, or excuse me, in February, hopefully, on college admissions process for juniors. So we would certainly encourage you to check out our website and also look forward to Mr. Braun sharing with you future webinars and future events that we may be co-hosting together. With that being said, Mr. Braun, do you have any words or any parting thoughts?
No, just thank you for for doing this, and thank you for kind of working with our junior and senior class. I wish more students would have been here to witness, the presentation. It was very good. Just great information. So thank you for that. And once we get something set in stone with dates and times in February, that information will be sent out in the email to everyone to sign up. So looking forward to it.
Sounds good. And Mr. Braun, I did record this webinar, and
Awesome.
I will put it on my YouTube page. And I would love it if you would share it with your students who weren't able to attend, so that they can go back and watch it later.
Absolutely, I will definitely do that.
All right, thank you all. Thank you, everyone, and everyone have a fantastic rest of their evening.
Thank you, you as well.
Thank you.